Good morning to you all. We'll start to make a start now and go through a few introductions just as everybody else is dialing in. I think first of all, big warm welcome to today's webinar from VentureForge, and thank you for joining us for the event where we'll look at maximising sales on Amazon without cannibalising your sales elsewhere. As a quick bit of an introduction, I'm Andy Banks and I'm the CEO at VentureForge. Today really isn't about us or about me, it's really about sharing insights into Amazon. But we'll just take a couple of seconds to introduce ourselves and tell you a bit more about our business. So as a quick introduction to me, I've spent 20 years working in e-commerce, both agency and retail side. And more latterly, I was part of a team that grew a business to acquisition by a major UK retailer before becoming their head of e-commerce and growing their business by £50 million over an 18-month period. After that, I wanted to start a business where I could help others become exceptional at e-commerce and in particular Amazon. And that's why we started VentureForge just over 3 years ago with that exact mission in mind. As a really quick introduction to us and what we do, this in essence is what we are. We're a business that helps grow brand sales on Amazon to a point where they've got good, profitable return and brand acceleration. And we do that by mixing strategy and operational excellence to help brands do what we set out to do, which is become exceptional at Amazon. How do we do this? Well, we do this across both Amazon seller and Amazon vendor, across all Amazon marketplaces, be that UK, Europe, North America and beyond. And we do that across a range of 14 services that we bring together to create a fully outsourced and fully managed service for brands that want to grow on Amazon. And we work with most brands on a full service basis, but we can also dovetail this and work on a subset of our services to mix in with internal teams where you've already got some capacity and some capability in the business. But as I say, today is not really about us or a sales pitch. It really is about helping brands understand how you can maximize your sales on Amazon without cannibalizing your sales in your other channels. So without further ado, I want to quickly move on and introduce today's speakers. We've got two great speakers today, plus a little bit from me as an introduction. I'll be sharing some insight on our high-level thoughts into why brands should not be overly concerned about cannibalization on Amazon and giving a few different kind of views on what cannibalization means, how brands can work around it, and why they should look at it slightly differently. We're also joined by Shelley Martin, who is the owner of the 4 Beauty Group and the owner of multiple skincare brands. Shelley has carefully and skillfully managed the journey from being retail and salon focused to having Amazon as a major sales channel in her business, whilst also growing all of those other channels at exactly the same time. Real superstar in terms of how she's grown her business and faced into those challenges over the last year or so. We've also got Emma Stapleton, who was acting MD for Prince Lionheart Europe and an independent strategy and brand consultant. Emma successfully led Prince Lionheart in Europe, managing the growth of Amazon alongside their traditional retail and wholesale channels. And Emma's views on strategy are a refreshing break from what we normally talk about on these conversations, which is a technical viewpoint and a view to how Amazon can be viewed strategically and commercially for a brand. We're also going to be taking questions and answers towards the end, but please start getting those questions and answers in through the Zoom Q&A tool as we start to get going, and we'll come back to as many of those as we can at the end of today's session. Before we get on to what Shelley and Emma have got to share with us, I want to share a few thoughts from VentureForge on our views on cannibalization and why we think brands worry about cannibalization and what it can mean to their business. I think what we often come across is the biggest question we get asked by a brand is, will Amazon cannibalize my sales? But in reality, when we dig into why they're asking that question and what that really means, it often comes from a lack of knowledge or expertise on the topic and this big fear that Amazon is a big, horrible monster that no one really understands. If we broke down the real kind of question behind this into what most people are really asking about, it falls into one of 6 points. First of all, Amazon will sell my items cheaply. I think partly that can be seen as true. And we'll talk about this as we go through. A lot of the things that people worry about cannibalization do actually exist, but they're misunderstood and can be worked around. So I'd say, yeah, it's partly true. Amazon may sell your items cheaply, but what's more important is brands have some to full control over their pricing on Amazon dependent on their strategy. So we'd almost dismiss that as a myth. Pricing on Amazon is important, but Amazon will not sell your items cheaply if you've got the right strategy in place. Secondly, Amazon will copy my product. I think the bad news there is that Amazon have already done that, or other sellers on Amazon already have. There's nobody that has approached us as a business that is selling something unique that doesn't or hasn't existed on Amazon in the past. Every product is on Amazon already, but if you flip this thinking around, how can a brand take back share from Amazon or market share from other sellers on Amazon where their products or products similar to theirs are already in the channel? And the third point here, my customers will swap to Amazon, is a valid point. Your customers may swap to Amazon and they may choose to buy your products off Amazon rather than your own website, retailers or wholesalers. But probably what's more important to think about here is the net gain that you can make by selling on Amazon to new customers that aren't buying from your brand already. And as we'll show you in a second with some data, that opportunity almost always far outstrips the risk of a handful of your customers moving across to Amazon. Coming on to the next 3 points, my profit will be lower on Amazon. Again, that's not always true. A typical Amazon business typically nets down to between 15 and 25% EBIT once your business is mature and once you're through the early growth stages. And when you compare that to traditional retail businesses that normally net down to around 10 to 15% on average, Amazon can actually be more profitable if it's run and managed in the right way. And the final 2 points are kind of similar, but first of all, you may upset your other channels. Again, it's quite true. You could upset your other channels or rock the boat with your other channels in your business. But I think the bigger question here is to ask why, and is upsetting some of your other channels actually quite advantageous if selling on Amazon and growing Amazon sales is strategically the right thing to do because you've got a bigger opportunity there or an incremental opportunity there? Is it acceptable for one channel to wobble a little bit if there's a much bigger opportunity in another channel that can grow your business overall? And on a similar vein, upsetting your other customers, again, quite true, but why is it a concern that you may upset some of your other customers? This may be customers that are selling your brand on Amazon on your behalf. And we'd always argue that if you're dealing with resellers, they're adding very, very minimal value to your business on Amazon. If anything, they're actually cannibalizing your sales opportunity and cannibalizing your margin and profit opportunity. So again, in that instance, actually upsetting some of those channels or customers might be the right thing to do for your business. I think there's a bigger question as to how upset will they be and how can you manage that and managing that through in the right way. But really that kind of brings us on to the final point I want to pick up on here, which is when you look at why brands worry about cannibalization, there's not really a single point there that can't be overcome, can't be managed or can't be mitigated around if you have the right approach and strategy to Amazon, because Amazon can typically offer a very significant incremental sales opportunity for brands. So really the worry about cannibalization is often overthought. It's full of negativity around selling items cheaply or losing sales from other channels. But when you look at the bigger, more holistic picture, you can grow your brand significantly by selling on Amazon and doing it in the right way with the right strategy. And we've talked a lot in those points about getting the right approach and the right strategy, but in the next few slides, I just want to kind of open up the thinking a little bit about the size of the incremental opportunity and why looking at this in a more positive way can really change a brand's view on things. I think before we go on to that, it's not the first time in e-commerce that brands have been sat asking this cannibalization question. 15 to 20 years ago, the question was, if I create a website, will it cannibalize my store sales? And at the time, the point was really valid, but the reality was actually much less valid and much less real in the grand scheme of things. What was really happening at that point was consumer buying habits were changing. Consumers were choosing to buy online because it offered greater convenience, better delivery, broader choice, better price points. And a brand that resisted that change was holding themselves back. And that's been seen when you look at major retailers today who have failed to keep pace with the digital first competition. And I'm not really saying here that Amazon is about to become that next wave where all of a sudden all consumers will start shopping on Amazon or marketplaces and stop buying off your website and stop buying in retail. But there is absolutely a sea change in where customers choose to buy from, and Amazon is absolutely at the front of that revolution. Nowhere is that more obvious when you look at the data of how consumers buy and shop online today. Today, 56% of consumers start a product search on Amazon. And of the 44% that don't shop on Amazon or start that search on Amazon first, we're going to show you now 4 slides that show exactly what happens after a consumer searches on Google across a few markets that we've analysed this past year. First of all, adult footwear, very random category selection, but we've deliberately just pulled a few different categories. Out of the 44% of people that start their search on Google, 6.4% of those people then go to Amazon as their next destination. Clarks still have really good dominance in this space, but that's down to the longevity of their brand and the strength of that brand, but that has been diminishing over the last few years. We look at kids' bags, again, another very random selection, but done deliberately so. Of consumers that search on Google, 18% then go to buy on Amazon. Through two of the very quick examples, toys has been a market that Amazon have absolutely disrupted. You've only got to look at the high street and the disappearance of people like Toys R Us, and you can see the strength that Amazon has in that marketplace. So the 44% that start a search on Google, 17% then end up back on Amazon. And the final example here is just looking at gifting, a very, very broad market. If you look at where people shop for gifts online, of those that start a search on Google, 30%, about 44%, then go to Amazon immediately after Google. So hopefully what you're seeing through there is when we talk about cannibalization, the risk of somebody shopping on my website versus buying on Amazon, or shopping on retail versus buying on Amazon, the vast majority of consumers today, 56% start on Amazon, and of those that don't start a shopping journey on Amazon, the vast majority come to Amazon as their second destination. And that really brings me on to kind of summarizing a couple of points, really. Cannibalization is a really horrible word. It sounds like it's full of risk. It's that whole kind of, I'm going to eat myself, it's all negative kind of mindset, but it misses out the positivity that can come through that conversation and the reason why you're looking at cannibalization. If we were to take a made-up example of a brand in the chocolate gifting category, and let's say they're selling direct to consumer, they're through grocers, maybe some retail in there today, and they were looking at selling on Amazon, if they're focused on cannibalization, they'd quite naturally be thinking about what would happen to my D2C sales, what's the risk to my business in the grocers, but would they potentially miss out on that big online opportunity? 56% of people that start a gifting and snacking search online start it on Amazon. Of those that start on Google, the majority then go to Amazon. And when you analyze the market opportunity on Amazon today, just on the chocolate category, in the last 30 days, £1 million was spent on chocolate on Amazon just through the top 60 items in that category. All of those sales going to this fictitious brand's competition. So by taking that view of cannibalization is bad, the brand could be potentially missing out on the flip side of that conversation, which is the opportunity to take a share of £1 million of sales from the category on Amazon that they just don't have access to today. So yes, I guess in summary, some sales are going to swap channels. People do decide to buy online versus Amazon versus in-store versus in the grocers or wherever it may be. But what's really important is to try and get that balance of risk versus reward. It's very, very difficult to quantify the risk until you started to do it and start to measure how many customers do swap channels. That's absolutely possible. But in our experience of working with a good number of clients over a long time frame, once a client has got over that barrier of will Amazon cannibalize my sales, the reality is that sales don't really get cannibalized. That conversation very, very rarely, if ever, comes back up. What is much easier is to quantify that reward. And even through the very high level charts that I've shared today and those few data points, what can be really clearly seen is Amazon presents a big opportunity for brands to sell into. And what's more important here is looking at flipping that thinking. If you get the strategy right and you set out with a strategy that can protect from cannibalization and is focused on growing into the existing market share that exists on Amazon today, almost any brand with the right strategy can grow a really good, significant incremental sales on Amazon whilst protecting their other channels and building it in a win-win way for their business. So as I said, today was really not about me. I just want to share a few of our thoughts about how Amazon can be good for a brand, how you can avoid cannibalization of your sales and in other channels and really face into a good positive opportunity. I think what I'd like to do next is hand over to Emma, who has got a really good experience of doing exactly what we just talked about, getting the strategy right, focusing on what matters to the business, focusing on how Amazon can grow alongside other sales channels, whilst also growing those other parts of her business and getting that to great success. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Emma Stapleton at Prince Lionheart.
Thanks, Andy. Just 1 second. Can the host just enable me to share screens, please?
You believe you tested all this beforehand, wouldn't you?
There we go.
There we go.
Okay, nice to meet you all. This is my first virtual event, actually. It's a lot less daunting than being there in front of everybody in person. So hi, nice to meet you all. So I'm going to talk to you about Amazon and Prince Lionheart. So Prince Lionheart was a business that I've been restructuring and working with for the last 3 years. But I think first it's really important to say that I am not an Amazon expert. So that's the first point I need to make in the introduction. I come on the back of 15 years in marketing consultancy. So I was Chief Growth Officer at a global brand agency, Elmwood. But I just completed my MBA and had my second daughter, and was looking for an opportunity to put my broader skills to the test, really put some of that theory into practice. The opportunity came up for me to look after the European division of the Prince Lionheart brand, an American brand, which I kind of grabbed with both hands, because I saw that as the opportunity to kind of put to play some of those, some of that theory from the MBA. But I think I just want to pick up on a point that Andy said around the cannibalization, is that there's a book that I came across with my work with P&G at a global level. It's Byron Sharp's How Brands Grow. And there's fundamentally two principles in that book. One is the importance of mental availability for a brand, which is I see it, I recognize it, and I understand the role that it plays in my life. The second is the physical availability. It's there at the right place, in the right place, at the right time to convert into a sale that supports the growth of the brand. Now, Coca-Cola, Kit Kat, these are all brands that are masters at physical availability and mental availability. They have clarity in how they look and present themselves consistently. It doesn't mean that they're identical everywhere you meet them, but they consistently apply the brand, so you recognize it at a glance. And then they are physically available. And the role of Amazon here is building physical availability, ignoring the space of, that Amazon represents. The size of that space as a brand is no longer really an option. It's how you show up in that space and what's the right representation of the brand in that context. I think that's the main question. Okay, so I'll just tell you a little bit about Prince Lionheart to contextualize the product on the Amazon platform. Prince Lionheart exists to help with life's greatest improvisation, which is being a parent. It's still a family-owned and operated business from California in the US, a real household brand in America, and the kind of products that the brand sells, everything from things like bath mats, really innovative, mold-free. If anyone's ever had a bath mat, we all know that they kind of get black mold and they're horrible. So products that are very well considered, created by parents, answering a lot of the pain points that parents have in that journey. Beautiful play mats that double up as a den so you don't end up losing your washing rack, accessories for your car to keep all of those things that you need on a journey and tidy, safety products to take care of little ones as they start to learn and develop and explore, seating, well ergonomically designed seats. This is probably one of our biggest sellers on Amazon. Super comfy, neat, tidy, and it really is a great product represented well, a good example of a product represented well in the platform. In terms of the business as it stands, US is by far the biggest division of the organization. It's the volume part of the business. It's a very well-established brand, founded in 1973. It's got lots of mental availability. Most parents will have heard of the brand, and it's also got fantastic physical availability. From Walmart lists some of the products as their premium proposition, right through to Amazon and their own store. Asia, quite interesting for a US brand. We have a fantastic business in Asia, and over there it's definitely a value brand. So the fact that we operate in Europe and America brings a huge amount of intangible value to the Asian market. And in Europe, we add value to America and to Asia. So it's a smaller value-led proposition in Europe, but it plays a really important part in the overall proposition, global proposition. Back in the 2000s, when the European division of Prince Lionheart was opened, we had kind of large retail customers, wholesalers, agents and distributors, and independents. Predominantly serving customers only in the UK. And the business did well. The founder's daughter came over between 2000 and 2008 and moved it forward. But actually, when she went back to America and handed it over, a lot happened in the retail landscape. I spent the weekend in White Rose Shopping Centre in Leeds and was just astounded at the number of retail units that are closed. And having worked quite closely in retail for the last 20 years, my early career was spent at Asda. experiential retail when it comes to, other than food may be slightly different. I think we're going down a commoditization path there, but in terms of other retail, it's all going to be experience led. What can you deliver in a physical space that you can't achieve in a digital space? And that's what we'll see, see physical retailers win. And that was really evident as I was looking at, brands like Lush doing a great job of an experience that you just couldn't replicate in a digital space. And conversely, some of the ones that were just a direct translation of the products weren't really working. And there was a lot to do, actually. I was recruited to transform the business, to restructure the business. We had all sorts of operational challenges. We needed new inventory management systems, new financial management systems. What I didn't know when I started this journey in 2019 is that we were going to have COVID to navigate, Brexit, which means that instead of just a UK company, we now run a UK and a Dutch company. All sorts of interesting challenges. But one of the biggest ones that I faced was, what is that kind of commercial strategy? I'd never done that before for a brand. I'd had a stake in that kind of conversation at a global brand level, but not really at a sort of value add small niche, what is a niche brand in this market. So just thinking about the role of that physical and e-com retailers. So who are those experience-led retailers that we align to? For the markets where we don't have that on the ground cultural knowledge and understanding and expertise, partnering with agents and distributors and having very tight agreements in place to make sure that the sales in those markets don't creep into others. The role of independence. So again, small independent retailers, baby is an interesting space. You need a huge amount of authority and credibility, especially for first-time mums who mostly will attempt to go to a physical retail experience in the first instance. Second-time mums less so, much more comfortable to shop, it's convenience led and are online, but just kind of understanding the role of the these different kinds of partners and how we can celebrate and be great partners to those people. So we don't want to be in a position where we're compromising Jojo, Maman, Bebe or Huggle, some of our independence, with what we do in e-commerce or with our agents. So how we take care of everyone. So Amazon, it's a real journey. And I would say you need to think about, for me, it was thinking about Amazon as a living and breathing organism that's constantly moving and evolving, and finding those smooth bits and going with that, finding the pain points and trying to put something around it. It's never fixed. So when I started to think about it initially, I first of all needed to decode understand what the options were. And Andy and I have had a couple of conversations early doors to say, just kind of help me understand what is, so seller being, we use the platform, basically we pay to play on the platform, but we're selling the goods directly to consumers. Fulfillment by Amazon is an option as part of seller. So you can send goods in and they do the final piece of pick, pack and deliver. Or Amazon vendor, which is a more traditional partner relationship where you're selling to Amazon like they're a retailer, so we're trading with Amazon. And there are benefits and challenges with each one of these approaches. So control over price, you definitely have more with Seller Central because you're placing those goods for sale on the platform and you determine the price. Whereas with Amazon vendor, you're selling to Amazon at a price and they determine the retail. Margin opportunity, I've always thought that it was higher with Amazon seller and lower with vendor. This is a very simplistic view though, because when you start to look at the costs around trading with Amazon, this doesn't always play out. And then brand control, the idea that there's lots of brand control with Amazon Seller Central and less so with vendor. However, when it comes to brand control, there is definitely more control if you are controlling who is selling your products on Amazon and doing things like branded content and having a storefront. And there's also more control if you do brand registry. So if you are the brand owner and go through the brand registry process, that allows you to control the brand in a way that you wouldn't otherwise been able to. So when I looked at that, I thought, okay, I think that probably sellers right for us. We were operating in vendor very well for the UK and France, but based on all of that, seller seems the right thing to do. But actually, when I started to look at it more, you from a fulfillment point of view, it's harder on the seller side. There's all sorts of kind of complexities with needing to be VAT registered in each market that you're selling in. None of these are unsurmountable, but it's definitely tougher from a fulfillment point of view. It's more complexity. You're dealing with 100 individual orders, maybe, than one consolidated order. It depends whether you're set up for that. Internal resource. Actually, there's a huge amount of resource required to manage those 100 transactions versus the one transaction that you might deliver on vendor. And operational ease, like the VAT point, the fact that we wanted to be across all Amazon European marketplaces would have meant that would have been needed to be VAT registered in all of those markets. So on reflection, we decided that our strategy was going to be to develop the vendor business. And I'm really glad to say that we're now well represented in the UK, in France, in Germany, in the Netherlands, in Italy, and in Spain. Some of these markets are more developed than others, but we have really good representation there, and we have a good understanding of how to optimize the brand in the platform in these markets. I'm going to kind of summarize now with the good stuff from my experience, and it's been a long journey through understanding Amazon, feeling our way and feeling like we're winning, and then they change something, and it may be you've got to kind of readjust and think again and adapt. But the good stuff. At the point of us focusing on Amazon, we hit the same time as Amazon had an internal focus on baby. So they were looking at what do we do to be how can we provide first-time parents and second-time parents with the information that they need in an easy to digest way, so that we help those. They are really concerned with the customer experience, and so there's a lot to learn actually if you take advantage of the insight and the data that comes out of the platform, and if you kind of open your ears to what's being commentated on in terms of their strategy. There is quite a lot to learn in terms of customer experience and insight and data actually as to how people are behaving in the platform and how to optimize your brand's representation there. The STAR program, we were given a person, because 9 times out of 10 it feels like you're dealing with a computer or a machine. When you do get to a person, they're all incredibly helpful and nice, but it can be difficult to get there. We were put on the STAR program, which would where we got to invite people to our warehouse in the Netherlands. They came in person, and we spent a whole day talking about the optimization of our brand across the vendor accounts, and some great work came out of that to help us drive forward. All sorts of different reports and plugins and specialist partners like Venture Forge. There's a lot of people in the market that know what they're talking about, and there's a lot of tools that you can use to support you optimizing your listings and thinking about the translation of the brand in the platform. A+ content, if you're the brand owner, it's a great way of extending, from in the UK since Brexit, we're no longer selling directly through our own website. Actually, Amazon represents as best a direct consumer proposition that we've got in the UK. So using the A+ content like it's the storefront and making sure it's a great representation of the brand. And then, like I said earlier, making sure that the brand is registered, so you get all of the controls that are not afforded to other sellers of your brand. Even if you can't control that, they won't be afforded the same levels of control if you have the brand registered. And they're not so good. As in a vendor relationship, we have an annual terms negotiation process, which is always quite painful. And my advice would be to stand strong, because they will go for whatever they can get. It's an algorithm-based approach. And I'm sure you'll all be facing the similar challenges of increased logistics costs, operational costs, staff costs, material costs. So that's not great that every year they come back, and they don't just come back for a little bit more, they kind of come back for quite a lot more. Amazon staff turnover, you need to kind of embrace the fact that you will probably never speak to the same person twice unless you manage to go on a program. And even then, once that program is over, those people kind of disappear back into Amazon. So understanding and navigating the ever-changing rules and being comfortable in a semi-fog sort of situation, and the idea that you just always need to be looking forward and thinking what next. Chargebacks and system-generated implications. Everything, so much of what they do is digitized, whether that's the way that they receive parcels in their warehouse, and that makes out there's a huge margin for error. So we receive chargebacks that aren't relevant, and there's quite a lot of work to be done actually around that process. But yeah, think algorithm first, and you won't go far wrong. And then just a general lack of control is the prevailing feeling or sense. But like Andy said, it's such an important platform that offers such fantastic physical availability that I think to ignore it is at your peril. So have a channel strategy that includes Amazon, and think about how you can ring fence that. So, you know, in the contracts, we allow a couple of people to sell on Amazon because there's a strategic benefit to that from a pricing point of view, but really control the brand quite tightly in the platform, explore those options and test, learn and evolve. It's an ever moving feat. So I'm not an Amazon expert. I just wanted to kind of share the path of my experience of Amazon in the context of Prince Lionheart, in the hope that there's maybe a nugget or two in there that can inform what you do. So I'll hand back over. Thanks, Andy.
Brilliant. Thank you, Emma. I think one of the things that every time you and I speak, I love the fact that you always call out that you're not an Amazon expert, but I think that's the absolute beauty in what you've shared there. And the fact that you've gone back to a much more commercial level and looked at, where are my customers, where are they shopping today, where is the opportunity? And that slide you showed that clearly showed Amazon has to be a focus for your business. And then your points of how you've kind of considered the various models, looking at seller versus vendor. You know, no model is right for any business in isolation. It's understanding which works for you strategically. I think the real clear call out for me that you've made is that one of brand control and price, and really choosing your strategy in the right way. So when you do decide to compete on Amazon, you're doing it in a way that protects your brand and also builds it in the right way for your business. So I think really refreshing to hear somebody who's not got into the techie part and sits up and goes, I'm not an Amazon expert, because I don't think anybody in reality ever is an Amazon expert. I think what you've called out here is often missed by people, you know, looking at the role of Amazon in your channel strategy and getting it right.
Yeah, and I think with my background in branding, my primary concern was not commoditizing what's a brand proposition, not a product proposition. And I think where Amazon started, it was a place for stuff, whereas now it's a place for brand experience as well. And so how do you sort of walk that line and take care of the brand first? And so I'm not saying that we'll never do seller, because commercially I might have to go into marketplace to kind of do the right thing for the business. But if we do that, it will still be in a brand-led way, and not competing with, you know, there are a huge number of baby products that are direct from China that are labeled. You know, we have to behave like a brand to justify that price premium and to demonstrate why the stuff's worth paying more for. And that's been the learning curve, I think, is how you do that in the platform in a way that feels brand-led rather than platform-led.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Emma. And then moving on to Shelley, our next speaker. I think Shelley is someone who's got really good experience in exactly what it feels like to take a brand on an Amazon growth journey. But I think absolute credit to Shelley, having seen what you've done with your business. I don't want to steal any of your thunder here, but I think you faced into a real and present risk of cannibalization, knowing how dependent you were on salons and retail, and then doing that through COVID when both of those channels shut down, and in Northern Ireland where you face stronger and longer restrictions than anybody else. I think absolute hats off to you, Shelley, and I'm excited by what you're about to share with us.
Thanks, Andy. Yes, absolute joy. The last 2 years for our business, which has been hit hard by COVID in many different channels. However, I am quite glad to say that we had embraced an Amazon strategy before that, and it certainly helped see us through. So very much about de-risking and having a full channel approach for the business. So just to share a bit about ourselves, for Beauty Group, it's a family business. We're based in Belfast, and we own 2 of our own brands, and that's the 2 brands that I will talk about today. Traditionally, we were a distribution business in Ireland for salons and pharmacies, and we distributed third-party brands from Italy, Spain, different brands that would all service the salon market. Our vision, Happy Healthy Skin, so that embraces both tanning and skincare. And really what we are about is creating exceptional brands, products that perform, and raving fans that come back and repeat purchase. And we know, hand on heart, that we have the best products on the market, that if people try our products, that they will come back and purchase. And I guess from an Amazon strategy perspective, that is real comfort in knowing that there is repeat purchase through Amazon and that our reviews are so good, because for us, it is all about reviews on Amazon, and you really do need to be up there at 4-star or plus. Hishi. So Hishi is our largest brand. It's the brand that we started 18 years ago. We talk about 18 years of experience in every bottle. And again, we are quite thankful that we are probably the longest standing tanning brand in the UK that is still founder owned and ran. And we have a varied approach for Hishi. It's literally in every channel that you can think of for a tanning brand. And that includes Amazon, salons, pharmacy, retailers, web resellers like Look Fantastic. We have our own D2C website, and then we have some distributors and agents internationally. At the moment, we do predominantly focus on the UK and Ireland. We have a distributor in France and Belgium, and we have some retail in Switzerland. Just as of the last 6 months, we have started that Amazon strategy in Germany for Hishi. With Skinition, Skinition is a salon brand, a professional brand, and that is its heritage, but very much combining that home care and the professional approach. And we have multitasking skincare at a really affordable price. So we have hard-hitting ingredients that are really affordable. So it's a mid-tier price point for Skinition. And again, the channels that we are currently in with Skinition are salon and spa, Amazon, and our own website. We serve over 1,000 customers, and that, again, every channel. So individual salons, so your independents, your pharmacies. We have distributors looking after pharmacies here in Ireland. We deal with the retailers ourselves, and literally we ship around the world. So as you can imagine, all sizes, all channels, all different processes, it can be quite complex. Amazon journey. So way back, I would say in 2016, an Amazon opportunity came up and we went down the vendor model route because we didn't know any different at that stage, basically. However, by 2018, we had a real issue with Amazon vendor that it had driven down our retail prices, and literally every other channel was complaining and all eyes were on Amazon. So for an example, our best-selling Express Liquid Tan retails at £20, and Amazon had driven that down to £11, £12 price point. And we were in between that conundrum of Amazon placing a large order at lower prices and always looking for discount, having to take that, knowing that it's going to come out the other end and actually hurt the other channels. So in 2019, 2020, we worked on an Amazon strategy with Venture Forge, and really we did compare all the different Amazon models and what we were going to do. We moved to a seller only model, and literally we went cold turkey on vendor. And we felt that that was best practice because there was also so many other resellers on our listings that we couldn't control that price, and it was damaging the other channels. So we did set up FBA, so we do ship all of our products into the Amazon warehouses, and we also have fulfillment by merchant as a backup. So just in case it goes out of stock in Amazon for any reason, we are able to fulfill it from our own warehouses here. What we do not, sorry, skip there. What we did with Venture Forge was very much about improving our listings to really make them top notch and really, I guess, go back to a real brand proposition. And with that, we really looked at that EBC content, and I think that has really, for us, been able to bring it alive, basically. From a brand perspective. And we also worked on brand storefronts so that you've got that branding piece. And that is all there now from an educational piece. If somebody doesn't know the brand, let's face it, we're a small brand, we're a challenger brand. There's much, much bigger brands on Amazon. However, the opportunity is there for smaller brands to grow. Ads, we didn't really actually know, but we had unprofitable ads running. So again, Venture Forge, come in, start from scratch, and let's really build up and look at what's going to be profitable for the brand. We also had non-profitable items, which again, we just wouldn't have known or picked up on without the technology that the likes of Venture Forge have in the background to be able to help you make those decisions. And the other thing that we did was we had a real focus, probably last year more than anything, on videos. And for us, again, that has really helped bring that alive, trying to take that barrier out of how do you apply tan, what's it going to look like on my skin tone, and really just helped improve those listings. What we do now, we manage promotional pricing, and this is probably a strategy for this year, in that we are limiting our discounting and promotions that we do on all the other channels, so that Amazon price doesn't get driven down. And I guess that really comes in from a third-party retail site, because that last year we had to register on competitive pricing, which means that if the price point goes down on any other website online, Amazon automatically bring that price point down. So we're trying to control that through the seller model, that we don't have to compete. And this year, going forward, we have shared our plans with Venture Forge of what we're doing with the other channels, and we have taken the decision that 25% max off any brand promotions. If other websites, for example, want to support deeper discounts, they will do that themselves. From a salon perspective, where we have ran into issues previously was all about the price point. And so again, this year, what we are doing is giving salons comparable promotions, but different promotions that, again, they can run, and the price point doesn't really matter, and there's not the focus on Amazon only. Have we had feedback from independent pharmacies and other third-party resellers? No, we don't. The only reason we would get that feedback, or we would get challenged on that, is all about the price point. So, for example, at the minute, we're currently, because of regulation changes, we're discontinuing products, and Amazon is actually quite a good clearance channel as well. That price point is lower. However, that is the same across the board. So if somebody wanted to come and buy that product for us and help us clear that through, there's almost pricing parity across that. And for us, that is the strategy that is working. If there's parity and there's understanding across all of the channels, then it's not typically an issue. Pharmacy and retail don't ever bring Amazon up as an issue. They tend to focus on what they are actually doing themselves. So for each channel, we are also taking a strategy this year of creating bundles. So we have created some bundles for Amazon. We will create some bundles for the other retailers that want those, and also our salon channels, so that there's almost a differentiation in bundles and product there. There's still value, but we're able to then control what happens with pricing. Did we cannibalize sales? No, I don't believe we did, because we now have growth in every channel, and we haven't been able to pinpoint that there's been a decline anywhere else to suggest that Amazon did cannibalize those sales. Skinition, on the other hand, so with Skinition is a full price strategy. We back last year really invested on Amazon with fine reviews, and that was really to We find that reviews are very, very important in the Amazon piece. So we give 30 of each product over to Amazon, who then put it out to their testing panel. And you know, we're very lucky to be able to say that all of our reviews are 4-star and above, but we have that confidence. So with Skinition, we run a full price strategy, and online discounting we don't typically do on Amazon because Skinition is a much less known brand. It is a higher price point than what would be on Amazon. However, I guess the opportunity will come as our brand awareness increases on Amazon. So therefore, periodically, again, whenever salons are running their own promotional period, we will do something like a 10% on the back of that. And for now, our strategy with Amazon is that for Skinition is that we don't discount. It is a shop window with great reviews. And let's face it, everybody does go to Amazon to check out the reviews. And it never, again, ever comes up in those channel conversations from customers unless it's a price point issue. Why we invest in Amazon? So, like I say, for us, Amazon is a brand shop window, and it gives credibility to smaller, unknown brands. I listened to a webinar last year, and the research, similar to what Andy had said earlier, 59% of people, when they want to buy online, go to a retailer such as Amazon or a Cult Beauty or a Look Fantastic first, then to Google, and then to an own brand website. So for us, Amazon is absolutely that platform for our brands. And again, the reviews really come into that. The reviews are trusted, they're real people, they're real results. And there is a definite link between higher reviews and more conversions. So for us, it's very much been, how do we get our reviews up on Amazon? How do we give the brand that prestige that, okay, it's less well known, but this product is going to perform. Amazon shoppers, for us, that audience is already there. People are already shopping on a marketplace. We would not reach that audience otherwise. So we need to be where shoppers are, very similar to what Emma was saying. It needs to be physically available. And that is just the landscape changing from retail, from salon to online. We definitely find that Amazon is a browse destination before they perhaps go in store. For example, with Skinition, you probably need to do a little bit more research on products before you buy a £40 cream, but you want to know what those ingredients are and you want to understand what that product's going to do. So again, the way Venture Forge lays out all of the listings, it's very, very clear what those USPs are and how to convert that into a sale. For us, Amazon is all about building a bigger business. We're spreading the risk, as I mentioned earlier, across the channels. We control our own listings. We're very lucky that we do always have the stock in Amazon. We're actually in a little bit of a unique situation here in Northern Ireland, which is not usually a positive. However, because we're technically still in the EU, and we're part of the UK, but we are also in the EU for being in Northern Ireland, we can very easily ship into Germany. So we haven't had any shipping issues so far, touch wood anyway, when we come to Germany. Delivery speed and cost, you can't replicate that anywhere, and it would cost an absolute fortune to be doing next day delivery all the time on your own website. You just could not replicate that speed at that cost. International expansion into unknown territories. Listen, we've just started this, our first international expansion into Germany with a full strategy, full-time investment behind it, and we need to see how that goes. But for us, we wouldn't be able to reach those consumers unless we were going through a distribution model and through salons or through pharmacies, through retail. Higher conversion rates on Amazon, I think, is also a play. So our conversion rate on Amazon is 33%, whereas, you know, on our own website, that would be 3-4. So that's another consideration. There is definitely a higher conversion. I guess the challenges, it's not the highest margin channel that we have. However, there is growth in Amazon, and it is definitely up there for that fastest growing channel for us. And there is considerable growth for us and unknown brands. I guess another challenge is that the Amazon customer is not your own customer, so you don't have that detail. And you don't have people behind Amazon. Again, as Emma had mentioned, it's challenging to understand and to control it. It's really, really challenging. And I firmly believe that partnering with the likes of Venture Forge, in between vendor and Venture Forge, we did have a bit of a disaster with another agency. So it really is important that you're working with people that get your business, that get Amazon, and are there to support you, because it is extremely time intensive otherwise. Out of stocks will also affect your ranking, and ultimately you're putting time and effort into increasing your ranking all of the time, and you're getting up there, and then you go out of stock, and that does have a detrimental effect. And sometimes that's outside your control. You know, the whole world has gone bonkers at the moment with components and trying to get that. And that's a real management issue where you do have to put the Amazon channel first, because you've spent so much money to get yourself up those rankings that you need to stay in stock all of the time. And really, I would say it's probably taken us 2 years to sort our internal processes to get it right. And then Amazon will change something. So it is extremely important to be agile, and you've got to be on it. You've got to change, because those out of stocks really can affect your business. The other thing with out of stocks we had last year was that Amazon actually put some restrictions on how much stock you could hold in Amazon as well. Now, thankfully, at that time, we were well stocked. It was coming into season. We have quite a seasonal business, as in tanning is March to July, August time. So it's quite important as well that there is a bit of buffer there. So that is obviously an investment in itself with Amazon. Okay, so in summary, it is great to have an Amazon presence, and I firmly believe that actually other channels benefit for having Amazon. As I mentioned, all channels are growing in sales after COVID, and I guess it is all about being able to control that price, but shouting about what you're actually offering for your other channels as well, those independents, those retailers, those distributors. And what we do particularly well, in my opinion, is that we have lots and lots of assets. So we have lots of images, lots of before and afters that we can repurpose across all channels, and that will help the brand perform. So it's very much about having subtle differences in each channel, but also supporting the people that are in those channels. Pricing parity, it's really, really important. And, you know, I've talked a lot about pricing, but there is means and ways around that, and you just need to be clever with that. And you just need to be adaptable as well, because things will change, and it's trying to keep everybody happy. But with promotions, with bundles, etc., I do believe that we can manage that. 5-star customer service and account management, you know, we have won awards for this, and again, shouting about that and telling your actual customers about that is really important. Education, we have developed over the last 2 years an online education platform. So again, we're offering that as an extra additional asset. Promotional support, we do support the other channels with promotions as well. So it's not just a case of they have to run their own promotions. We do support that financially. eventing, obviously not so much of late, but it is there. Social competitions, giveaways, PR agencies, everything that you need to grow a brand, we are doing in the background, and it's not channel specific. So influencer brand ambassadors will support other channels, but we will also mention Amazon in some of that as well. And something we haven't really tried that much is driving off-site traffic into Amazon. And it will be something that we will try this year. Seasonal gift sets. So we did a lot of testing with Amazon, and actually seasonal gift sets didn't work on Amazon for us for some particular reason. And I just think that the listings take time to get going and get time to actually get that airtime. And whenever you have a seasonal set and it's in and out of all the other channels within 2 to 3 months, we just find that it actually took more time to get that going than was beneficial. And obviously other channels with our brands, with skincare, you have to sample. You can't do that on Amazon. So we have found that particularly helpful with supporting that other, with supporting all of the other channels actually. And that's it from me.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Shelley. Just conscious of the time, we've got a fair few questions coming in. I think just to quickly summarize what I heard from there more and more so through your presentation, Shelley, was price, actually the importance of managing that price, not just on Amazon, but also across your other channels. I think also coming from Emma's talk a bit about the brand strength and protecting the brand visually and representationally on that channel, and protecting the price or managing the price on the channel and outside of the channels. That really, for me, comes back to the nub of that strategy. Those two, and looking at the questions we've got coming in, really seem to be the levers or the concerns that people seem to have. Just conscious, we've got a couple of minutes left. We've got about 20 questions in, so I'm going to probably pick off a quick fire of each of these, and then open to any of us if we're ready to answer them. I think the first one that's coming probably really key after what you've just shared there, Shelley, is how can Amazon vendors, in particular, specific to vendors, but I think this is probably a broader question as well, protect your retail prices on Amazon? I think from my point of view, I'll probably chip in first with that. I think on vendor, you have less control. On seller, you have full control, providing you're the only person selling your product and you've not got a reseller issue on Amazon. So I think for me, there's a black and white answer, which is if you're the only seller on Amazon Seller, you have full control of your price point. On the vendor side of things, I would argue less so. And I know we don't want to get into kind of particulars here of how everybody manages their own strategy, but I think the big lever you've got to pull is how much do you sell to Amazon for? Because that's probably the only true lever. Amazon may still sell at a loss, but managing your price to Amazon is probably the only true lever you've got there to manage that. I think, Shelley, you hit some interesting points about competitive pricing. You know, managing pricing in other channels has a huge impact on the price that Amazon will sell at as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Specifically from the likes of Feel Unique and Look Fantastic last year that were, you know, perhaps running 40% off discounts, and Amazon automatically drop the buy box, and the buy box is an absolute, you know, it's so important in everything that you're doing. And it was either, if we don't enroll in this competitive pricing, we're going to lose the buy box. Another seller is going to come in there, and it's going to actually ruin everything that we have typically done. So yeah, for us, it's definitely a pricing consideration.
And there was a question that related to this, Andy, around can you legally contract who's able to sell? Yes, you can. We you know, we're really clear with all of our partners that Amazon's a global house account. And, you know, there are occasions where related to pricing, we might work with one of our partners to represent the brand, you know, to manage that actively. But yes, you can contract to exclude others from selling within the platform.
Yeah, it's something we've had discussions with other clients around. We're not committed, we can't give legal advice, but the view we've always been given when clients look at this is you can't control price, but you can control the brand and protect the brand. And if you want to exclude somebody from selling on Amazon in order to protect your brand representation, then you absolutely can do that and have a clear channel strategy. I think that backs for everything you were saying earlier. I mean, it's about the clear commercial and business strategies to why and how you should do Amazon.
And transparency with your partners, you know, from the start, having that conversation, because if you're in control, it breeds confidence, which is, I think, you know, what Shelley was saying is just actually that visibility of how it's going to play into your overall strategy brings a confidence and a, you know, a sense of knowledge to those partners. And, you know, also there are a few partners that we had that weren't right for the brand moving forward. They were trading on price, and if you're a brand rather than a product, trading on price just is a race to the bottom. It's only going in one direction. So actually there may be points in that journey where there are some partners that aren't appropriate to work with moving forward, and always difficult conversations, but the reality of how the retail landscape's changing.
Yeah, makes absolute sense. I think got a question from Karen Ripley. Would you apply the same advice to a luxury consumer brand? Can you apply the same strategy? I wonder, Shelley, is there something you can share here from Skinish? You talked very much there about how Skinish and he, she were very, very different strategies, and your more premium brand Skinish and trades at a full price all the time.
Yeah, it does. Again, it's probably a less well-known brand. We have engaged with a PR agency in the UK just from January, and we've already been featured on This Morning, and the instant sales from that at full price on Amazon straight away. You have to be there. If you're playing in that brand arena, and that luxury brand arena, then we've taken this decision not to go down the price discounting route, because it is only one way to the bottom, and we would never be able to compete on price there. So I guess it is there, and we do spend a little on it. We have two brands, so we always have that challenge of, well, what are we going to spend most on? But that seasonality, Skinish, and then kicks in that winter season, and that's when we start to see improvement there, and we will just keep working through in that. But it is there. You don't have to discount. It probably will grow faster if you do, but it depends what your other channels are, I think, and how you support those.
Thanks, Shelley. I thought we'll just take two more, just conscious of running kind of over on time, and no doubt people have got things to move on to. I think one of the questions here, probably more kind of for your direction, Emma. Do you think more now than ever before it's vital to build a brand presence on Amazon and not just sell your products on there as brands have done historically?
Yes, definitely. And I think there was another question about how do you do that? And I think it was Paul who asked what EBC was, which is enhanced brand content. And I think there's things like the storefront, so how your brand is represented in the platform, and then A+ content almost gives you it gives you the ability to create the experience of the brand within the platform. So absolutely utilize those to do that piece of brand translation, and make sure, Shelley touched on it, from an imagery point of view, how can you get your brand into your imagery? So I don't know, some of the brands might have already thought about what is our style of imagery that's instantly recognizable as ours, because that's another way in how you state. There's some very tight guidelines on how you do photography for Amazon, but there are ways and means of in your lifestyle shots of expressing the sort of, I think there was a touchy-feely kind of question. You can absolutely get some of that brand experience through your imagery as well. So I would say A+ content, storefront, imagery, and listing titles, how you present your products, language that you use to describe. So in your product descriptors with your bullet points, you can be playful with language there. So tone of voice, you can express the brand in the space very well, is my experience. You just need to kind of know which levers you can pull.
Yeah, I think it links into the final question I was going to come on to. As the marketplace on Amazon continues to flood with competition, what are some of the innovative ways to stand out? I think if I was to tackle that straight on, there's lots of innovative ways to stand out, but I think covering all the bases and doing everything fantastically on all the things you've just described there, Emma. I actually think the ways to stand out are to be a brand. Amazon is absolutely awash with products that are coming in direct from factories in China, from trading-based companies that are absolutely great at pulling the price, the promotion lever, playing the ranking algorithm. They're less good at actually creating really compelling brand content, brand imagery, videos, photography, brand stores, video advertising. So I think in terms of being innovative to stand out, I actually think it's not the sexy innovation that makes you stand out. It's actually covering all the bases really well at a good level of brand quality, I suppose I would call it, but then also playing into some of the new things from Amazon. It was one of our product categories where Amazon have launched their new banner calling out the eco credentials of the product. How well is it packaged? How small a space does the product take up? Grabbing hold of those more tactical opportunities and being innovative there is fantastic, but covering your bases first and having great compelling content, imagery, etc., for me is where you've absolutely got to start from.
I also think there's that opportunity for the first moment of truth, which is the experience of the brand in the platform. And then there's the second moment of truth, which is the brand when it reaches the hand. So, you know, there's a lot around Amazon shipping own container and stripping back your primary packaging to be in like brown cardboard boxes, which, you know, yes, thinking about efficiency, but how do you then still deliver a brand experience when people receive that parcel that isn't reductive, that's additive? So if you are going to do shipping your own container, how do you do it in a brand-led way, not just in a functional way where you lose all of that lovely experience of, you know, think how Net-a-Porter delivers something to you, it's appropriate to their product. What's the appropriate experience for your brand when it gets in their hand as well?
Fantastic. Well, look, thank you very, very much for your time, everybody. Shelley, Emma, thank you very much for sharing all of your thoughts and putting all the time you put into this. I am very conscious about a lot of questions we didn't get into, so we'll follow up after this with an email to everybody. And if anybody wants any more insight, any further questions, please just drop us a line. But yeah, thanks once again for your time. We'll be in touch so we can follow up any questions, and hope you have a fantastic day. Thank you.